my birdies, and welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is A Love Song for Ricki Wilde by Tia Williams. Now, Tia Williams has another book entitled 7 Days in June. Now, I have not read 7 Days in June just yet, but it's on my TBR. A Love Song for Ricki Wilde was a book that seemed to have a lot of great reviews on Book Talk, Bookstagram, and BookTube. The cover is absolutely beautiful. And when I read the summary, I said, you know what? This sounds like a book that I would be interested in. So let's start with my summary of the book. What if you were the so-called black sheep of your family? No matter how poised and regal your parents and three sisters were, you stood out like a brown thumb. That's what it's like for Ricki Wilde, the youngest of the Wilde family. The family business of death has kept designer on the backs of Ricki's sisters, vodka in her mother's tumbler, and her father's name on the lips of the elite. What it hasn't kept is Ricki's creativity from blooming like her favorite flower, the night-blooming jasmine. Instead of burying the dead for exorbitant prices, Ricki wants to follow her own path by opening a flower shop. Her dreams come to fruition when a newly widowed woman by the name of Della Bennett invites her to Harlem to rent the bottom floor of her brownstone. Deciding that you only live once, Ricki moves to Harlem believing that this new start is what she needs to manifest the life she wants. Taken to her new city like a fish to water, Ricki's creativity seems to flourish, whether it's an outfit or floral arrangement. While out exploring the community garden, Ricki's gaze meets that of a man who leaves her breathless and stirs a sense of familiarity. From that moment on, it seems that Ricki and this stranger keeps running into each other around Harlem, as if by fate, destiny, or sheer coincidence. Perhaps it's the leap year adding to the magic. Leap years have a way of being uniquely enchanting, and for some, even a single February can be transformative. Okay, so let's meet our characters. Richard Ricki Wilde Jr. She was named after her father due to the expectation that she would be a boy. She is considered the black sheep of the family because she doesn't follow in the footsteps of her successful father and sisters. Her mother has a particular disdain for her, especially after Ricki's drunken behavior at one of her sister's weddings. And I find that to be kind of ironic because all Ricki's mom does is drink. Ezra Walker is a charming and handsome stranger who seems to appear whenever Ricki is around, as if they are drawn to each other like magnets. It's almost as if they resonate on the same frequency. His way of speaking is kind of old-timey-ish to Ricki. Della Bennett has become like a grandmother to Ricki. Determined to live life to the fullest, she has begun working through her bucket list and embracing her long-held dreams. I was so excited to read this book because I enjoyed the movie The Age of Adeline, and the premise seemed similar. I initially loved A Love Song for Ricki Wilde, but to be honest, I almost DNF'd it. I mean, once Ricki met Ezra, the pace slowed considerably. And it wasn't until chapter 15 that we got a clear understanding of Ezra's background. While we could figure out his backstory from the context clues, revealing more of it earlier would have made for a more engaging read instead of dragging it out. The back and forth between I like you and stay away from me and but wait, I'm enamored, but I can't be too close. It felt frustrating, and the trek to reverse the curse seemed so far-fetched. There were a few scenes in the book where Ricki would take her flower bouquets and she would place them around Harlem and take pictures for her social media. In her captions, she would give trivia about what the buildings were before gentrification. Some of the buildings were nightclubs, some were pharmacies, some were brownstones that people lived in. It's just so amazing how history, well, some history, can be erased. There are a couple of the buildings that she saw had markers on them telling what the building used to house. I really like that idea, and that sounds like an Instagram and a TikTok profile that I would turn my notifications on for. Speaking of which, do you follow me on TikTok and Instagram? If not, please do so after this review. You can find me on both TikTok and Instagram as Robin's Reading Nest. Okay, so back to the book review. I also like that Ezra dropped musical trivia too. He had little known facts about music by Stevie Wonder, Shaka Khan, Jimi Hendrix, and Aretha Franklin. I think those little flashbacks were great, and this reminded me of the movie Forrest Gump when he supposedly was the cause of all of these moments in history. At this point, I think Ezra could have had a standalone book by himself. The one thing that I was struggling with was how does Ricky's family own its own funeral home, but decided against not having her incorporate her floral designs? Like they wanted to have a cafe and massage parlors. And I know that people grieve in different ways, but if I'm planning a funeral for my loved one and you're trying to shove a $5 mocha latte in my face or asking me would I like to take a $500 shoulder massage, the first thing I'm going to do is get my stuff and go because I feel like that is just too much and it would get on my nerves. Also, while looking at other reviews for this book, I saw a couple of people mention that Ricki could have been like a Cinderella, and Miss Della could have been her fairy godmother, and Ezra as her Prince Charming. And while reading the book, I didn't really put two and two together. But after seeing their explanation and thinking about Ricky's sisters, I was thinking, yeah, it could be a modern day Cinderella. Now, on to my rating. I know I'm going to get a lot of groans for this. Probably a couple of dislikes on my YouTube review. Probably a couple of angry comments in the comment section. But because I only do 4-star reviews, I gave A Love Song for Ricki Wilde 2.5 stars. Oh my gosh. But I took a star away, well, actually, a star and a half away for the extreme slow burn. And like I said before, it almost made me DNF it. But you also have to remember that I don't do 5 stars when I rate my books. I stick to 4 because I feel like 5 can overcomplicate things, and 4 stars works out for me. So having 2.5 stars is not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to my ratings. I just feel like the pace was just dragging on and on and on. And the idea that Tia was going with for the book was actually pretty good. Like I said, it was just the dragging between Ezra and Ricki that I did not like. Also, as I stated earlier in the review, I have not read 7 Days in June, but there is a nod to two of those characters in this book, but I won't give that away. So I'd probably discuss that when I actually read 7 Days in June. All right, you guys. So, have you read A Love Song for Ricki Wilde? What did you think of the book? Let me know in the comments. Once again, like I said, please subscribe. And if you haven't done so, please follow me on TikTok and on Instagram as Robin's Reading Nest. And until our next book review, I want to thank you for visiting Robin's Reading Nest, where birds of a feather read together.